This happened a few years back. I was doing long haul, mostly cross-country routes, the kind that take you through vast stretches of nothing. You know the ones where the radio turns to static for hours, and the only sign of life is the occasional pair of headlights going the other way, miles apart. I was young, eager for the miles, the money, didn't mind the solitude, or so I thought. The route I was on took me across a long, desolate stretch of highway that ran between the borders of two large governmental territories. I don't want to say exactly where, but think big, empty spaces, lots of trees, not much else. It was notorious among drivers for being a dead zone, no signal, no towns for 100 miles either side, and prone to weird weather. Most guys tried to hit it during daylight, but schedules are schedules. Mine had me crossing it deep in the night. I remember the feeling, utter blackness outside the sweep of my headlights, the kind of dark that feels like it's pressing in on the cab. The only sounds were the drone of the diesel engine, the hiss of the air brakes now and then, and the rhythmic thrum of the tires on asphalt. Hypnotic, too hypnotic. I'd been driving for about 10 hours, with a short break a few states back. Coffee was wearing off. The dashboard lights were a dull green glow, comforting in a way, but also making the darkness outside seem even more absolute. My eyelids felt like they had lead weights attached. You fight it, you know? Slap your face, roll down the window for a blast of cold air, crank up whatever music you can find that hasn't dissolved into static. I was doing all of that. It must have been around 2 or 3 a.m. I was in that weird state where you're not quite asleep, but not fully awake either. Like your brain is running on low power mode. The white lines on the road were starting to blur together, stretching and warping, standard fatigue stuff. I remember blinking hard, trying to refocus. That's when I saw it, or thought I saw it. Just a flicker at the edge of my headlights, on the right shoulder of the road. Small, low to the ground. For a split second, I registered a shape, vaguely human-like, and then it was gone, swallowed by the darkness as I passed. My first thought? Deer. Or a coyote. Common enough. But it hadn't moved like an animal. It had been upright. My brain, sluggish as it was, tried to process it. Too small for an adult, too still for an animal startled by a rig. Then, the logical part, the part that was still trying to keep me safe on the road, chimed in. You're tired, seeing things. Happens. And I almost accepted that. I really did. Shook my head, took a swig of lukewarm water from the bottle beside me, kept my eyes glued to the road ahead. The image, though, it kind of stuck. A small, upright shape, like a child. No way, I told myself. Out here, middle of nowhere, middle of the night? Impossible. Kids don't just wander around on interterritorial highways at 3 a.m. It had to be a trick of the light, a bush, my eyes playing games. I've seen weirder things born of exhaustion. Shadows that dance, trees that look like figures. It's part of the job when you're pushing limits. I drove on for maybe another 30 seconds, the image fading, my rational mind starting to win. Just a figment. Then I glanced at my passenger side mirror. Habit, always checking. And my blood went cold. Not just cold, it felt like it turned to slush. There, illuminated faintly by the red glow of my trailer lights receding into the distance, was the reflection of a small figure, standing on the shoulder of the road. Exactly where I'd thought I'd seen something. It wasn't a bush, it wasn't a shadow, it was small, and it was definitely standing there, unmoving, as my truck pulled further and further away. My heart started hammering against my ribs. This wasn't fatigue, this was real. There was someone, something, back there. And it looked tiny. Every instinct screamed at me, danger. Wrong. Keep going. But another voice, the one that makes us human, I suppose, whispered something else. A kid? Alone out here? What if they're hurt? Lost? I fought with myself for a few seconds that stretched into an eternity. The image in the mirror was getting smaller, fainter. If I didn't act now, they'd be lost to the darkness again. God, the thought of leaving a child out there, if that's what it was. Against my better judgment, against that primal urge to just floor it, I made a decision. I slowed the rig, the air brakes hissing like angry snakes, pulled over to the shoulder, the truck groaning in protest, put on my hazards, their rhythmic flashing cutting into the oppressive blackness. Then I did what you're never supposed to do with a full trailer on a narrow shoulder. I started to reverse. Slowly, carefully, my eyes flicking between the mirrors, trying to keep the trailer straight, trying to relocate that tiny figure. The crunch of gravel under the tires sounded unnaturally loud. It took a minute, maybe two, but it felt like an hour. The red glow of my taillights eventually washed over the spot again, and there it was, a kid. I stopped the truck so my cab was roughly alongside them, maybe 10 feet away. Switched on the high beams, hoping to get a better look, and also to make myself clearly visible as just a truck, not something else. The kid was small. Really small. I'd guess maybe 6, 7 years old. Hard to tell in the glare. They were just standing there, on the very edge of the gravel shoulder, right where the trees began. The woods pressed in close on this stretch of road. Tall, dark pines and dense undergrowth that looked like a solid black wall just beyond the reach of my lights. The kid wasn't looking at me. They were facing sort of parallel to the road, just walking, slowly, like they were on a stroll, completely oblivious to the massive 18-wheeler that had just pulled up beside them, engine rumbling, lights blazing. They were wearing what looked like pajamas. Thin, light-colored pajamas, in the chill of the night. No coat, no shoes that I could see. My mind reeled. This was wrong. So many levels of wrong. I killed the engine. The sudden silence was almost deafening, amplifying the crickets, the rustle of leaves in the woods from a breeze I couldn't feel in the cab. My heart was still thumping, a weird mix of fear and adrenaline and a dawning sense of responsibility. I rolled down the window. The night air hit me, cold and damp, carrying the scent of pine and wet earth. "Hey!" I called out. My voice sounded hoarse, too loud in the quiet. "Hey, kid!" No response. They just kept walking, one small bare foot in front of the other, at a pace that was taking them absolutely nowhere fast. Their head was down, slightly. I couldn't see their face properly. "Kid, are you okay?" I tried again, louder this time. Slowly, so slowly, the kid stopped. They didn't turn their head fully, just sort of angled it a fraction, enough that I could see a pale sliver of cheek in the spill of my headlights. Still not looking at me, still ignoring the multi-ton machine idling beside them. A prickle of unease ran down my spine, not the normal kind of unease. This was deeper, colder. Animals act weird sometimes, but kids? A lost kid should be scared, relieved, something. This one was nothing. "What are you doing out here all alone?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, friendly, like you're supposed to with a scared kid. Even though this one didn't seem scared at all. It's the middle of the night. Silence. Just the sound of their bare feet scuffing softly on the gravel as they took another step, then another. As if my presence was a minor inconvenience, a background noise they were choosing to ignore. This wasn't right. My internal alarm bells were clanging louder now. My hand hovered near the gear stick. Part of me wanted to slam it into drive and get the hell out of there. But the image of this tiny child, alone, possibly in shock, I couldn't just leave. Could I? "Where are your parents?" I pushed, my voice a bit sharper than I intended. "Are you lost?" Finally, the kids stopped walking completely. They turned their head, just a little more, still not looking directly at my cab, more towards the front of my truck, into the glare of the headlights. I could see their face a bit better now, pale, featureless in the harsh light like a porcelain doll, small, dark smudges that might have been eyes. No expression. None. Not fear, not sadness, not relief. Just blank. An unreadable slate. Then, a voice. Small, thin, like the rustle of dry leaves. Lost. Just that one word. It hung in the air between us. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by a fresh wave of concern. Okay, lost. That's something I can deal with. Okay, kid. Lost is okay. We can fix lost. Where do you live? Where were you going? The kid finally, slowly, turned their head fully towards my cab, towards me. I still couldn't make out much detail in their face. The angle, the light, something was obscuring it, keeping it in a sort of shadowy vagueness despite the headlights. But I could feel their gaze. It wasn't like a normal kid's look. There was a weight to it, an intensity that was deeply unsettling for such a small form. Home, the kid said, that same thin, reedy voice. Trying to get home. Right, home. Where is home? I asked, leaning forward a bit, trying to project reassurance. Is it near here? Did you wander off from a campsite? A car? There were no campsites for miles, no broken down cars on the shoulder. I knew that. The kid didn't answer that question directly. Instead, they took a small step towards the truck. Then another. My hand tensed on the door handle, ready to open it, to offer... What? A ride? Shelter? I didn't know. It's cold out here, I said, stating the obvious. You should get in. We can get you warm, and I can call for help when we get to a spot with a signal. My CB was useless, just static. My phone had shown no service for the last hour. The kid stopped about 5 feet from my passenger door, still in that pale, thin pajama-like outfit, barefoot on the sharp gravel. They should be shivering, crying. They were doing neither. Can you help me? The kid asked. The voice was still small, but there was a different inflection to it now. Less flat, a hint of something else. Pleading, maybe? Yeah, of course I can help you, I said. That's why I stopped. Where are your parents? How did you get here? The kid tilted their head, a jerky, unnatural little movement. They're waiting, at home. Okay, and where's home? Which direction? I gestured vaguely up and down the empty highway. The kid didn't point down the road. They made a small, subtle gesture with their head, a little nod towards the trees, towards the impenetrable darkness of the woods lining the highway. In there, the kid said. My stomach clenched. In the woods. Your home is in the woods. Lost, the kid repeated, as if that explained everything. Trying to find the path. It's dark. Yeah, it's very dark, I agreed, my eyes scanning the tree line. It looked like a solid wall of black. No sign of any path, any habitation. Just dense, old-growth forest. The kind of place you could get lost in for days, even in daylight. Can you come out? The kid asked. Help me look. It's not far, I can't see it from here. Every rational thought in my head screamed, no, get out of the truck. In the middle of nowhere, in the pitch dark, with this strange child who wanted me to go into those woods. Number absolutely not, but the kid looked so small, so vulnerable. If there was even a tiny chance they were telling the truth, that their house was just a little way in, and they were genuinely lost. I don't think that's a good idea, buddy, I said, trying to sound gentle. It's dangerous in there at night. For both of us. Best thing is for you to hop in here with me. We'll drive until we get a signal, and then we'll call the police or the rangers. They can help find your home properly. The kid just stood there, that blank, unreadable face fixed on me. But it's right there, they insisted, their voice a little more insistent now. Just a little way. I can almost see it. If you just step out. The light from your door would help. My skin was crawling. There was something profoundly wrong with this scenario. The way they were trying to coax me out, the lack of normal emotional response, the pajamas, the bare feet, the woods. I looked closer at the kid, trying to pierce that strange vagueness around their features. My headlights were bright, but it was like they absorbed the light rather than reflected it. Their eyes. I still couldn't really see their eyes. Just dark hollows. I really think you should get in the truck, I said, my voice firmer now. It's warmer in here. We can figure it out together. The kid took another step closer. They were almost at my running board now. Please, they said, that reedy voice again. My leg hurts. I can't walk much further. If you could just help me a little, just to the path. My internal conflict was raging. My trucker instincts, honed by years of seeing weird stuff and hearing weirder stories at truck stops, were blaring warnings. But the human part, the part that saw a child in distress, was still there, still arguing. I was tired. So damn tired. Maybe I wasn't thinking straight. Maybe this was all some bizarre misunderstanding. I squinted, trying to see past the kid, towards the tree line they'd indicated. Was there a faint trail I was missing? A flicker of light deep in the woods? Nothing. Just blackness. Solid, unyielding blackness. And then I saw it. It wasn't something I saw clearly at first. It was more like an anomaly, a disturbance in the darkness behind the kid. The kid was standing with their back mostly to the woods, facing my truck. Behind them, the darkness of the forest was absolute, or it should have been, but there was something connected to them, something that stretched from the small of their back, from under the thin pajama top, and disappeared into the deeper shadows of the trees. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, a weird shadow cast by my headlights hitting them at an odd angle. Maybe a rope they were dragging? A piece of clothing snagged on a branch? I leaned forward, trying to get a clearer view. The kid was still talking, their voice a low, persistent murmur. It's not far. Please, just help me. I'm so cold. But I wasn't really listening to the words anymore. I was focused on that thing behind them. It wasn't a rope. It wasn't a shadow. It was a tube. A long, dark, thick tube. It seemed to emerge directly from the kid's lower back, impossibly, seamlessly. It was dark matte, like a strip of the night itself given form, and it snaked away from the child, maybe 10, 15 feet, before disappearing into the inky blackness between two thick pine trunks. It wasn't rigid. It seemed to have a slight, almost imperceptible flexibility, like a massive, sluggish umbilical cord made of shadow. It didn't reflect any light from my headlamps. It just absorbed it. My breath hitched in my throat. My blood, which had been cold before, now felt like it had frozen solid. This wasn't just wrong. This was impossible, unnatural. The kid was still trying to coax me. Are you going to help me? It's just there. You're so close. My voice, when I finally found it, was barely a whisper. I couldn't take my eyes off that appendage. Kid. What? What is that? Behind you. The kid flinched. Not a big movement, just a tiny, almost imperceptible tightening of their small frame. Their head, which had been tilted pleadingly, straightened. The blankness on their face seemed to solidify. What's what? They asked, their voice suddenly devoid of that pleading tone. It was flat again, colder. That thing, I stammered, pointing with a shaking finger. Coming out of your back, going into the woods. What is that? The kid didn't turn to look. They didn't need to. Their gaze, those dark, unseen eyes, bored into me. It's nothing, they said. The voice was still small, but it had a new edge to it, a hardness. You're seeing things. You're tired. They were using my own earlier rationalization against me. No, I said, my voice gaining a tremor of conviction born of sheer terror. No, I'm not. I see it. It's right there. It's connected to you. The kid was silent for a long moment. The only sound was the thumping of my own heart. So loud I was sure they could hear it. The crickets had stopped. The wind seemed to die down. An unnatural stillness fell over the scene. Then the kid's face began to change. It wasn't a dramatic movie monster transformation. It was far more subtle and far more terrifying. The blankness didn't leave, but it sharpened. The pale skin seemed to tighten over the bones. The areas where the eyes were, Those dark smudges seemed to deepen, to become more shadowed, more intense, and a flicker of something ancient and utterly alien passed across their features. It wasn't human anger. It was something older, colder, and infinitely more patient, now strained to its limit. The air in my cab suddenly felt thick, heavy, hard to breathe. "Just come out of the truck," the kid said, and the voice. Oh God, the voice. It wasn't the small, reedy voice of a child anymore. It was deeper, resonant, with a strange, grating undertone like stones grinding together. It was coming from that small frame, but it was impossibly large, impossibly old. It vibrated in my chest. "Come out, now!" The command was absolute. My hand, which had been hovering near the gear stick, now gripped it like a lifeline. My other hand fumbled for the ignition key, which I'd stupidly left in. "What are you?" I choked out, staring at the monstrous thing playing dress-up in a child's form, at the dark, pulsating tube that was its anchor to the shadows. The kid's head tilted again, that jerky, unnatural movement. The expression on its face, if you could call it that, was one of pure, unadulterated annoyance. Contempt, like I was a particularly stupid insect it had failed to swat. And then it spoke in that same terrible, resonant, grinding voice. The words it said are burned into my memory, colder than any winter night. "Why?" it rasped, the sound seeming to scrape the inside of my skull. "The fuck are humans smarter now?" That was it, that one sentence. The sheer cosmic frustration in it. The implication of past encounters, of easier prey, the utter alien nature of it. I didn't think, I didn't plan, I reacted. Primal fear, the kind that bypasses all higher brain function, took over. My hand twisted the key. The diesel engine roared back to life, a sudden, violent explosion of sound in the horrifying stillness. The kid, the thing, actually recoiled, a small, jerky step back. The expression, that awful, tightened, ancient look, intensified. I slammed the gear stick into drive. My foot stomped on the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, tires spinning on the gravel for a terrifying second before they bit into the asphalt. I didn't look at it. I couldn't. I stared straight ahead, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, the whole cab vibrating around me. The truck surged forward, gaining speed with agonizing slowness. For a horrible moment, I imagined that tube thing whipping out, trying to snag the trailer, to pull me back, to drag me into those woods. I imagined that small figure, with its ancient, terrible voice, somehow keeping pace. I risked a glance in my driver's side mirror. It was standing there, on the shoulder, unmoving. The headlights of my departing truck cast its small silhouette into sharp relief, and behind it, the dark tube was still visible, a thick, obscene cord snaking back into the endless night of the forest. It didn't seem to be retracting or moving. It just was. The thing didn't pursue. It just stood and watched me go. And that, somehow, was almost worse. The sheer confidence, the patience, like it knew there would be others. Or maybe it was just annoyed that this particular attempt had failed. I drove. I don't know for how long. I just drove. My foot was welded to the floor. The engine screamed. I watched the speedometer needle climb, far past any legal or safe limit for a rig that size, on a road that dark. I didn't care. The image of that thing, that child shape with its dark umbilical to the woods, and that voice, that awful grinding voice asking its horrifying question, was burned onto the inside of my eyelids. I must have driven for an hour, maybe more, at speeds that should have gotten me killed or arrested, before the adrenaline started to fade, replaced by a bone-deep, shaking exhaustion that was more profound than any fatigue I'd ever known. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely keep the wheel straight. Tears were streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from sheer, unadulterated terror and relief. When the first hint of dawn started to gray the eastern sky, and my phone finally beeped, indicating a single bar of service, I pulled over at the first wide spot I could find. I practically fell out of the cab, vomiting onto the gravel until there was nothing left but dry heaves. I sat there on the cold ground, shaking for a long time, watching the sun come up, trying to convince myself that it had been a dream, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion. But I knew it wasn't. The detail of that tube, the voice, the question. You don't hallucinate something that specific, that coherent, that utterly alien. I never reported it. Who would I report it to? What would I say? Officer, I saw a little kid who was actually an ancient cosmic horror tethered to the woods by a nightmare umbilical cord, and it got mad because I didn't want to be its dinner. They'd have locked me up, breathalyzed me, drug tested me, sent me for a psych eval. I finished that run on autopilot, dropped the load, drove my rig back to the yard, and I quit. I told them I was burned out, needed a break. They tried to convince me to stay, offered me different routes, more pay. I just couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that kid, that tube, those woods. Every dark road felt like a trap. I found a local job, something that keeps me home at night. I don't drive in remote areas anymore if I can help it, especially not at night. I still have nightmares. Sometimes, when I'm very tired, driving home late from somewhere, I'll see a flicker at the edge of my vision on the side of the road, and my heart will try to beat its way out of my chest. I don't know what that thing was. An alien? A demon? Something else? Something that doesn't fit into our neat little categories? All I know is that it's out there, and it's patient. And it seems to have learned that its old tricks aren't as effective as they used to be. Why the fuck are humans smarter now? That question haunts me. It implies they weren't always. It implies that once upon a time we were easier. That maybe, just maybe, people like me, tired and alone on dark roads, used to just step out of the cab when asked, and were never seen again. So, if you're ever driving one of those long, lonely stretches of road, deep in the night, and you see something you can't explain, maybe just keep driving. Maybe being smarter now means knowing when not to stop. Knowing when to ignore that little voice telling you to help, because what's asking for help might not be what it seems. Stay safe out there, and for God's sake, stay on the well-lit roads. The elevator should never have stopped on the 13th floor. The building only had 12, but at 12:47 a.m., on a quiet Tuesday in October, the rusted doors creaked open, revealing a hallway that had been sealed off for nearly half a century, and Evan Cole stepped inside. Just 3 days earlier, Evan had found the listing, a one-bedroom apartment in Chicago for $400 a month. Too cheap, too strange. But Evan had nowhere else to go. The building was called Meridian Tower, a brutalist block of crumbling concrete, stretching up like the fingers of something long buried. The superintendent was an old woman named Mrs. Kowalski, thin, pale, her smile too wide, her eyes too still. She handed him the keys. "Apartment 12B, top floor," she said. "You'll like the privacy." The elevator was broken, she warned. So Evan climbed. 12 flights, each one quieter than the last. Half the doors were sealed shut with yellowed tape and faded notices. The others barely showed signs of life. And now, he was one of them. That first night, Evan unpacked slowly. His saxophone case stayed in the corner, unopened. But eventually the silence was too much. He played, simple scales, a soft tune, but something felt wrong. The sound didn't echo. It didn't travel. It was as if the walls swallowed every note. He stopped around 11:30, and that's when he heard it. Music, distant. Another saxophone playing from deep within the walls. It wasn't an echo. It was someone else. The melody was strange, but familiar. And without thinking, Evan began to play along. His fingers moved on their own. He didn't know the song, but somehow he remembered it. At midnight, it stopped. The next morning, Evan knocked on every door he passed the night before. No one answered. Mrs. Kowalski was outside, sweeping leaves that weren't there. "I heard music," Evan said. "Another saxophone, somewhere in the building." She didn't look up. "Only you up there," she replied. "Always been that way. Probably just the pipes. Old buildings make noises." But Evan knew music, and that wasn't noise. The next night he waited, and at exactly 11:47 p.m. the melody returned. He played again, this time in harmony, perfect harmony. By the fourth night, the song haunted him. It played in his head all day, in his steps, in his breathing. He wasn't learning the song, he was remembering it. That's when he started staring at the elevator. The panel had 12 buttons. Always had, but sometimes, out of the corner of his eye, he thought he saw something. A faint circle, faded. Just below 12, a ghost of a button. 13. On the fifth night, Evan waited in the lobby. Midnight came, the elevator groaned open, empty. But this time, a button glowed, a button that wasn't there before. 13. He pressed it, the elevator rose, higher than it should have, past where the 12th floor ended, past where the building should go. When the doors opened, Evan stepped into a hallway untouched by time, clean, preserved, frozen in 1976. Green carpet, glossy wood paneling, everything smelled of dust and memory. At the end of the hall, apartment 13B stood open. And inside, music. The apartment mirrored his own. Same layout, different time. Orange shag carpet, velvet curtains, a burgundy sofa, and a man in the corner playing the saxophone. He wore a burgundy suit. His back was turned, but in the window's reflection, Evan saw his own face, younger, healthier, hopeful. On the coffee table sat old black and white photos, jazz clubs, crowds, smiles frozen in time, and beneath them, a newspaper clipping. November 15th, 1976. Entire 13th floor of Meridian Tower vanishes. 23 residents, including jazz musician Evan Cole, missing without a trace. He stared. There he was in the photo, smiling, 30 years younger. The caption read, "Evan Cole, 32, moved in 3 days before disappearance." The music stopped. The man in the suit turned. Same face, same eyes, but lighter. Like someone who never lost anything. "You're 3 days late," he said. "Late for what?" Evan asked. "The performance. We've been waiting." Outside the window, other apartments came to life. People danced, laughed, practiced, frozen in a loop, all from decades ago. "You left us unfinished," the man said. "The song needs you." Evan looked down. His clothes had changed. His hands were younger. The saxophone was already in his lap. "There never was a breakdown," the other Evan said. "No lost years. Just this place, this song, this loop." The skyline outside flickered. Modern buildings blinked in and out, past and present tangled like threads in smoke. "When do you think you are?" the voice asked. The apartment pulsed. Reality bent. Evan ran for the door, but it was gone. In the mirror, he saw himself in the burgundy suit, smiling, whole. The saxophone lifted to his lips. The melody returned, and he played, because deep down, he knew he had always been here. He had always known the song. In apartment 13B, the performance began again. A perfect harmony, an eternal loop, each note echoing through time and memory. And down below, Mrs. Kowalski marked 12B as vacant, said it had been for years, just like the others. The elevator, still broken. Of course it is, but sometimes, if you're still awake, long past midnight, you might hear it. Faint music, a saxophone drifting through the vents. And if you listen too closely, you might start to recognize the melody, because the 13th floor never left. It's just waiting for someone to join the band. Sleep well, and if you hear music tonight, don't follow it. Not unless you're ready to play. The tornado siren cuts through the Kansas heat like a scream at 3:47 p.m., and Jamie Porter knows her summer just got a whole lot worse. She's sprawled on her grandfather's ancient couch, scrolling through Instagram posts of her friends back in Chicago, pool parties, concerts, actual civilization, when the wailing starts. The sound makes her teeth ache. "Jamie!" Grandpa Joe's voice cracks from the kitchen. "Storm shelter, now!" She rolls her eyes. It's probably just a test. Tests don't last 3 minutes straight. His weathered face appears in the doorway, and for the first time since she arrived 6 weeks ago, he looks genuinely afraid. "I've lived through 70 Kansas summers, girl. That's the real deal." Through the window, the sky has turned the color of old bruises, purple-black clouds rolling in like something hungry. The wind picks up, rattling windows that probably haven't been replaced since the 1970s. Holy language. But Grandpa Joe is already moving, grabbing a flashlight from the kitchen drawer with hands that shake just slightly. Storm shelters behind the house. Move. Jamie's been here since June, and she's never seen him rattled. The old man who fought in Vietnam, who buried his wife and raised 4 kids on this godforsaken farm. His hands are actually trembling. The wind hits like a freight train. Something crashes against the back door, and the lights flicker once, twice, then die completely. They run. The storm shelter squats 50 yards behind the house like a concrete grave. Grandpa Joe fumbles with a massive key, cursing under his breath while the wind tries to tear them both away from the heavy steel door. "Built this during the Cold War," he shouts over the roar, "meant to keep the Russians out." The door swings open with a groan that sounds almost human. Metal steps descend into darkness so thick it seems solid. The air that rises up smells of rust and dampness and something else, something that makes Jamie's stomach turn. "You first," he says. "I'm not going down there." "You are, or you're gonna die up here." Lightning splits the sky, and in its harsh light, Jamie sees it. A funnel cloud maybe half a mile away, moving straight toward them like God's own finger reaching down to erase them. She goes down. The shelter is smaller than she expected and twice as creepy. Maybe 10 feet by 12, with a ceiling so low Grandpa Joe has to duck. Concrete walls weep moisture in the flashlight beam. 2 folding chairs face each other across a wooden crate that serves as a table. But what catches Jamie's attention is the back wall. Or what should be the back wall. Instead, there's another door. Heavy steel, just like the entrance, but this one has been welded shut. Crude metal beads run along the edges like scar tissue. "What's back there?" Grandpa Joe doesn't answer. He's too busy securing the main door, throwing heavy bolts and checking seals. The storm's roar fades to a dull rumble, muffled by tons of concrete. "Grandpa, what's behind that door?" "Storage." His voice is clipped, final. "Nothing you need to worry about." But Jamie's 17, and 17-year-olds don't let things go. She walks to the sealed door, runs her fingers along the welded edges. The metal feels cold despite the humid air. Why weld it shut? Because some things are better left alone. There's something in his voice, not just irritation, but genuine fear. The same fear that made his hands shake when the siren started. "How long do we have to stay down here?" "However long it takes." They settle into the folding chairs. Minutes crawl by. The flashlight beam seems to die just a few feet from the walls, swallowed by shadows that feel too thick. Jamie tries not to think about the tons of earth above their heads, or the way the darkness seems to press against her skin. That's when they hear it, a sound so soft she almost misses it. A rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on wood. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. "Do you hear that?" Grandpa Joe's face goes white. No, but he does. She can see it in his eyes, the way they dart to the sealed door and then away. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. Someone's in there. No one's in there. No one's been in there for 30 years. The tapping stops. They sit in tense silence, listening to their own breathing and the muffled storm above. Jamie counts her heartbeats, 43, 44, 45, before the sound comes again. But this time, it's not tapping. This time, it's knocking. 3 deliberate knocks, then silence. Then 3 more. There's someone trapped in there, Jamie says, standing. Sit down. They need help. Sit down. But Jamie's already moving toward the sealed door, pressing her ear against the cold metal. The knocking comes again, and she feels it, tiny vibrations through the steel. Hello? She calls. Can you hear me? The knocking stops. Then, so faint she almost misses it, a voice. Help me. The words are barely a whisper, distorted by metal and concrete, but they're definitely there, definitely human. Oh my God, Jamie turns to her grandfather. There's really someone. His hand clamps down on her shoulder, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Get away from that door. But they need nothing. His voice cracks like a whip. Whatever you think you're hearing, ignore it. Please, the voice comes again, clearer now, young, desperate. I've been here so long, please help me. It's a boy, maybe her age. The desperation in his voice makes her chest tight. How long has he been in there? There's no one in there. I can hear him. You're hearing what it wants you to hear. What it wants. What are you talking about? Grandpa Joe turns away, hunched in his chair like he's carrying the weight of the world. Some mistakes you live with forever. The voice comes again, stronger now. Is someone there? Please, I can hear you talking. I've been trapped for so long. There was an accident, and the door got stuck, and no one knows I'm here. Jamie's hand finds the welded seam. What's your name? Jamie, don't. My name's Tommy, the voice replies. Tommy Chen. I live on the farm next over. I was exploring and I got trapped in here. That was, God, how long ago was it? What year is it? It's 2024. 2024? The voice breaks. Oh God, I've been here since 1987, 37 years. My parents, they probably think I'm dead. 37 years. The math makes Jamie sick. If this Tommy was her age when he got trapped, he'd be in his 50s now, but the voice still sounds young. Tommy, how are you still alive? How did you survive down there? Silence. Then, I don't know. I remember being hungry at first, thirsty, but then, I don't remember much. Just the dark, just waiting. We're going to get you out, Jamie says. She looks around for something to cut through the welds. There has to be a way. No. Grandpa Joe's voice is iron. We're not opening that door. He's been trapped for 37 years. He's been dead for 37 years. I should know. I helped bury him. The words hit like a slap. What? Tommy Chen died in 1987, drowned in Miller's Creek during the spring floods. I was a pallbearer at his funeral. Jamie stares at her grandfather, trying to process this. You're lying. I wish I was. He looks older than his 73 years. Tommy Chen was a good kid, played with your father when they were young, and yes, he died in 1987, but not here. Then who? Tommy can't answer, says a different voice from behind the door. Older, rougher. Because Tommy's not here. Jamie jerks back from the metal. This new voice is nothing like the frightened boy from before. This voice is dark honey over broken glass. Who are you? I'm the one who's been waiting. Waiting for someone curious enough to ignore old warnings. Jamie, get away from there, now. But she can't move. The voice has her pinned. Your grandfather knows who I am. Don't you, Joe? Tell her about the missing children. Tell her about what you built this shelter to contain. Shut up. Tell her about Michael Santos, 1954, the Riley twins, 1961, Sarah Kim, 1979, Tommy Chen, 1987. Each name hits like a physical blow. Jamie sees her grandfather flinch. Tell her how they all disappeared, how the family searched but never found them. Stop. Tell her how you knew where they'd gone, how you came down here and found what was left. I said stop, but the voice laughs instead, a sound like grinding bones. Tell her about your grandson, Joe. Tell her about Danny. The words explode in the small space. Jamie's blood turns to ice. What grandson? I had another grandson, Grandpa Joe whispers. Your father's brother's boy, Danny. He came to visit when he was 13. Smart kid, too curious. His voice breaks. He heard the voice. Came down here one night, by the time I found him. By the time he found me, the voice continues cheerfully. Poor little Danny was already part of the collection. Such a sweet boy, such a strong voice to add to the choir. You're lying, Jamie breathes. Am I? Ask your grandfather about the drawings, Jamie. Ask him about the journal. What drawings? Grandpa Joe's face crumbles. Danny was an artist, always drawing. When I opened that door looking for him, I found his sketchbook, pictures of the thing that lives back there, pictures of the other children. And a journal, the voice adds helpfully. Such detailed entries about his final days. Would you like to know what he wrote about you, Jamie? About the cousin he'd never met but hoped to someday? This isn't real, Jamie says, backing toward the main door. This is some kind of sick joke. The journal's still back there, the voice says, along with all the others. Decades of documentation. Would you like to see it? Despite everything, Jamie finds herself curious. What did Danny write? Oh, the usual things. Fear, desperation, hope that someone would find him. And toward the end, he wrote something very interesting. Something about the voice, something about not trusting it. The temperature in the shelter seems to drop 10 degrees. What did he write? Why don't you come see for yourself? Don't, Grandpa Joe warns. It's trying to get you to open the door. That's all it wants. Someone to break the seal. But the journal is real, the voice confirms, along with the drawings. Along with all the evidence you need to understand what really happened to your cousin. What's going to happen to you? Jamie looks at the welded seams. They're crude, clearly done by someone without professional training, someone desperate. You could pry it open, the voice suggests reasonably. There are tools in the corner. Your grandfather's been maintaining this shelter for decades. Surely there's a crowbar somewhere. She looks around and sure enough, spots a small toolbox half hidden behind one of the chairs. Jamie, no. I just want to see the journal. I want to know what happened to Danny. You know what happened to Danny, the same thing that happened to all of them. The same thing that'll happen to you if you open that door. But what if he's wrong? The voice asks. What if the real monster is sitting right next to you? Think about it, Jamie. He knew where all the missing children went. He was always first on the search parties. He built this shelter with a hidden room. What if he's been the one taking children all along? The doubt creeps in like poison. Jamie looks at her grandfather with new eyes. Is that true? Of course not. It's trying to turn you against me. That's what it does, finds doubt and feeds on it. Then why won't you let me see the journal? Because opening that door is exactly what it wants. Or maybe, the voice suggests gently, he doesn't want you to read what Danny really wrote. Maybe he doesn't want you to know the truth. Jamie's hand moves toward the toolbox before she realizes it. Please, Grandpa Joe whispers, whatever else you believe, don't open that door. But the doubt has taken root. What if Danny really is back there? What if there's evidence that could explain everything? What if her grandfather has been lying all along? The storm above seems to have quieted. The shelter feels smaller somehow, the walls pressing in. Just a quick look, Jamie says, reaching for the crowbar, just to see what's really back there. Jamie, don't, but she's already prying at the welded seam. The metal is old, corroded. It gives way easier than expected. That's it, the voice encourages. Just a little more. The first weld snaps, then the second. The door shifts slightly in its frame. Stop, Grandpa Joe pleads. Please stop. But Jamie can't stop now. She has to know, has to see. The crowbar bites into another weld, and this one gives way with a sharp crack. Almost there, the voice whispers. Almost free. One more weld, one more twist of the crowbar. The door swings open with a groan. The space beyond is smaller than Jamie expected. Maybe 6 feet deep, with concrete walls on 3 sides. And it's empty. No Tommy, no Danny, no ancient evil. Just a pile of moldy notebooks and scattered drawings. Jamie steps inside, flashlight beam dancing across the debris. The drawings are childish but detailed. Stick figures with too many arms, creatures with mouths full of teeth, scenes of children being led into dark places. She picks up one of the notebooks. The cover reads, "Property of Danny Porter," in careful 13-year-old handwriting. She opens it to the last entry, day 47. The voice is getting stronger. It sounds like Mom now, calling my name, but I know it's not really her. I know because I saw what happened to the others. Their bones are stacked in the corner, and the thing wears their voices like masks. It's trying to get me to give up, to let it in, but I won't. I won't become another voice in its collection. If someone finds this, don't trust the voice. It's not me. It's not any of us. It's something else, something hungry. Don't let it out. Don't. The entry ends mid-sentence. Jamie flips through the rest of the notebook, but the pages are blank. She looks around the small chamber again, her flashlight beam catching something in the corner. Bones. Small bones, yellowed with age. Her stomach lurches. She backs toward the door, notebook clutched in her hands. Found what you were looking for? The voice asks, but now it's coming from behind her. From the main chamber. Jamie spins around. The entrance to the small room frames her grandfather, but something's wrong with him. His eyes are too bright, his smile too wide. Grandpa? Not quite, he says in a voice that isn't his. But close enough. The steel door slams shut behind her. Jamie throws herself against it, pounding and screaming, but it's no use. The door has no handle on this side, no way to open it from within. "Let me out," she screams. "Why would I do that?" Grandpa Joe's voice asks from the other side. "I've been waiting so long for a porter, for someone with the right bloodline." "You're not my grandfather." "No, but I'm wearing him well, don't you think?" It only took 40 years to perfect his voice, his mannerisms, his memories. Amazing how much you can learn about someone when you have their grandson to practice on. Jamie slides down the door, Danny's journal still clutched in her hands. The truth hits her like a sledgehammer. "Danny never escaped," she whispers. "Oh, Danny escaped all right, right into me, just like Tommy, just like all the others, just like your grandfather when he came down here looking for his missing grandson 20 years ago." Above her, she hears footsteps, heavy boots on concrete. The thing about taking someone's place, the voice continues conversationally, is that you have to be patient. You have to wait for the right moment, the right victim. You can't just replace anyone. It has to be someone whose disappearance won't be immediately noticed. "My parents think you're spending the summer with your loving grandfather. And when you don't come home? Well, teenage runaways are sadly common these days, especially troubled ones from broken homes." Jamie looks around the small chamber desperately. The bones in the corner seem to glow in her flashlight beam. Danny's bones, Tommy's bones, all the others. "Don't worry," the voice says gently. "It won't hurt for long, and afterward, you'll be part of something bigger, something that's been growing for decades." She hears the sound of metal on metal above, the main door being secured from the outside. 43 years I've been perfecting this technique," the voice continues. 43 years of learning how to be human, how to live among you, how to hunt without being caught. The footsteps fade away. Jamie is alone in the dark with the bones of children and the journal of her dead cousin. She opens the notebook again, flipping to an earlier entry. The thing doesn't just eat you, it becomes you. It takes your memories, your voice, your whole identity, and then it goes back up to the surface and lives your life better than you ever did. I've been down here 6 weeks now, and I can hear it upstairs sometimes, talking to Grandpa in my voice, telling him I'm fine, I'm just exploring, I'll be back soon. Grandpa doesn't know I'm really down here dying while that thing wears my face. It's patient. So patient. It'll keep Grandpa alive just long enough to make my disappearance seem natural. Then it'll take him too, and then it'll wait for the next porter to come along. I wish I could warn them. I wish I could tell them not to trust their grandfather, not to come to the farm, not to go down into the shelter. But by the time anyone reads this, it'll be too late. Jamie closes the journal and sits in the dark, surrounded by the bones of children who thought they were safe with family. Above her, she hears the thing that wears her grandfather's face making a phone call. "Hello, Sarah?" It's Joe. "I'm afraid I have some bad news about Jamie. She's run off, left a note saying she was heading to California to find herself. You know how teenagers are." The voice is perfect, concerned but not panicked. The voice of a grandfather who's done his best but can't control a troubled teenager. Jamie screams until her throat is raw, but no one can hear her through the concrete and steel. In Danny's journal, she finds one final entry, written in shaky handwriting. "I can feel it happening. The thing is taking pieces of me bit by bit. Soon there won't be anything left but the voice it uses to hunt. If you're reading this, you're probably going to die down here just like I did, just like all of us did. But maybe you can be the one who breaks the cycle. Maybe you can find a way to stop it before it takes someone else's place. There's a weakness. I've seen it. When it's feeding, when it's absorbing someone new, it has to let its guard down. It has to drop the masks it wears. That's when it's vulnerable. That's when you might have a chance. Don't give up. Don't let it win. And whatever you do, don't trust the voice. Any voice. Even mine." Jamie stares at the words until they blur in her vision. Don't trust the voice. Even mine. She looks around the small chamber again, at the bones in the corner, at the scattered drawings, and she realizes something that makes her blood run cold. Some of the drawings are fresh, recent, done in pencil that hasn't had time to fade. Someone else has been down here. Someone else has been drawing pictures of the thing that hunts children. Someone who might still be alive. "Hello," she whispers into the darkness. And from somewhere in the walls, somewhere impossible, a voice whispers back, "Don't trust the voice. It's not me." The flashlight dies, and Jamie Porter disappears into the dark, leaving only the echo of her scream and the scratch of pencil on paper as someone or something begins to document her final days. Above ground, the thing that looks like her grandfather finishes its phone call and settles into the old man's favorite chair. It has all the time in the world to wait for the next porter to come looking for their missing family. And it's gotten very, very good at waiting.